Welcome everybody back at the SBENU Star League Season 3 here. It is the Challenger matches here once again tonight. It is day number 2. We are going to find out 3 more players who are going to make it into the round of 16. I am Valdez. With me tonight is Wolf. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back here casting some Star League. I've had a pretty busy casting schedule over the past few weeks, so I haven't really been able to do that much Star League. I'm glad to be here for Challenger. This is basically where we find out who's actually going to the Star League, because yeah, Challenger is part of the Star League, even if there's a guy rocking in my ears while I'm trying to explain it to you guys. Yeah. Challenger is part of the Star League, but it's not the real Star League. It's not the prestige. It's like an extension of the qualifiers.
Pretty much, and you'll notice some of these matches are going to be very one-sided. Yesterday, we were actually very surprised when some of those matches weren't as one-sided as we thought they were going to be. Namely, Myungshik took a while. He was up against a Terran player.
Journey,
okay. We thought, maybe Journey was able to pull it through, but Myungshik took 2 quick games right away, very aggressive, and Myungshik just barely won in Game 5. Journey made it really interesting.
It was a really interesting series in general, and we see Journey, of course, leaving SKT, going to Samsung, finding a new home like Bravo, perhaps maybe a bit more strong. But let's talk about this tournament format again for you guys here, because obviously this is partially in Korean. But Challenger, for those of you guys who are new to Star League, is basically, if you want to compare it to another tournament, Code A. Best of 5s. You win your best of 5, you're in the tournament. You lose, you're going back to the qualifiers. Then we go into our group stage of the round of 16. It's going to be played by best of 3s. And going to the round of 8, best of 5s. The round of 4 and the finals are best of 7s.
Yeah, love the fact that we have best of 7s, by the way, for the round of 4 as well. You really get to get the best players into the finals here. Here we see the Seeds, Maru Life, Biel, and Zest making it from Star League, Rogue from Pro League, and Tudming and Snoot will make it. The other guys, they all qualified.
Yeah. Talking about the global Seeds, we're bringing a Chinese player in yet again, but this will be the first time in Star League that we have a foreigner from Europe actually participating. We had Scarlet from North America in the very first season of Star League, and now we're bringing Snoot along. So it should be really exciting to see how well he performs.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really cool. That is going to be, of course, on day number 4 next week on Friday. So mark your calendars if you do want to watch those games. You guys see the other matchups here as well. This little CG we got going on here tonight. We will have matches 4, 5, and 6. And just like yesterday, was kind of expecting them to be pretty one-sided. But based on yesterday, I would say that's probably not going to be the case.
Well, let's talk about these matchups pretty briefly here. These could go either way, I feel, all of them except the third one. The third one's when I see this should be one-sided. Rogue versus Hart. Hart, we don't really know how well he's doing right now. To qualify for a tournament like this is pretty impressive. The Axiom players have not been performing this year. They haven't really performed well in a while. Whereas if you look at Biel versus Shine, Biel is highly favored. However, Shine has thrown off great Zerg players in the past, great ZVZ players as well. His ZVZ is Soki especially. His ZVZ is unpredictable, it's varied, it's really exciting, and that's actually my favorite matchup of the night at ZVZ.
Me too. I know you love Shine. He's the guy who will 6-fool your mom. It's the famous joke you made up about this guy, but it's very true. And also, Biel is not entirely on his game these days. A lot of these CJ players who are up on top are slowly beginning to fall from their high ground, and it's kind of scary.
Sure, CJ definitely having a rough time right now. They're already out of playoffs, of course, in Pro League as well. Taking a look at Rogue's stats here and see that in these series, like in these Star Leagues, really the Season 1 results are pretty impressive. Season 2 a bit weak. Rogue is much more known for his best of 1 play than his best of 3, best of 5, and if he's ever played one, I can't remember it, best of 7s.
Yeah. He's a guy, if he gets behind, he'll have trouble getting back into the series. Here is Hart on the other side, of course, from Axiom. We can see how he qualified into Star League Season 3 here. He defeated Panic 2-1, Trap 2-1, and then Furious 2-1.
And this is a unique situation. We've got a foreign team player actually playing in a Korean Star League, and it used to mean that this is a player that's going to have a really hard time. He doesn't have a proper team house. This is practice as good as other players. Well, Axiom actually has a team house here in Korea, and we just had Rain, who's on My Insanity, win the GSL. So we're living in a bit of a different world. The Kespa domination in Star Leagues, definitely not as strong as it used to be.
Yep. Artosis, in fact, wrote a great article about that. Definitely go ahead and check out his blog. Here you can see saying,
can you help
please nerf Protoss,
yeah.
David Kim. Oh, that is so funny. Even the Korean cast is getting a kick out of that. Speaking on that note, Deer versus Sue yesterday. Deer able to make it over Sue, a guy who is right now 7-0 or 8-0 in Pro League against Protoss. Just let that sink in for a second.
Let it be known. So let's take a look at our bans here. Coda and Expedition Lost banned by Rogue and Hart. No surprise we see those two bans. Most players are saying that TBZ is virtually impossible on Expedition Lost. Coda map that Zergs don't like too much versus Terran. The rest of the maps that we have here in this pool are determined by random chance. And we actually have this drawing backstage with us in the makeup room where these players just pick papers out of a box.
Yeah, and taking a look at this map pool, the first 3 maps are the biggest ones we got. It's going to be very, very big. And I would hope macro games here, at least for the first 3 games. And then we jump straight into Echo and Bonnie Research Station. 2 more 2-player maps. So, Bonnie Research Station a bit thin.
Yeah, I feel like this map pool highly favors Rogue. It's a map pool that's bigger. It's more Zerg favored. Look at Iron Fortress, even has Zerg logo in the middle of the map.
That's how you know it's definitely Zerg favored, right?
And Hart is a player who's known to cheese, known to be aggressive. Would not be surprised that if we go to set 4 or 5 in this series, he ends up throwing a 2 barracks proxy into the mix. He's absolutely known to do that. And the bigger the map, the later the game goes. I feel like mechanics-wise, Rogue on one of the best teams in the world. Perhaps the best team in Pro League. We'll find out on tomorrow.
They're doing so well. Of course, on the backs of Rogue himself and, of course, Maru. But, guys, we're about to jump into game number 1 here. Rogue, let's hope he doesn't get too far behind. We were talking about how the map pool definitely favors him. He should be comfortable on these big maps to start it off. But we'll see where he's at in his mindset and also the way that Hart wants to play this series.
This music is getting me hyped, Valdez. Looks like we're going to jump into this game right here, right now on Iron Fortress. Game 1 between Rogue and Hart here at StarLeague Season 3's Challenger.
Down here in the bottom left, in the blue, our Zerg player from the Jin Air Green Wings, it is Rogue.
There he is. Over here at the bottom right in red, representing Axiom today, it's Hart. And let's talk about Hart a little bit, because I feel like if you're an avid Korean esports fan, you probably know Rogue already. He's got his teammates here. Crank, of course, one of the managers of the team there on the right. Also still trying to be a pro gamer himself. But this team is actually run by a popular YouTube content creator called Total Biscuit. But anyway, let's talk about Hart's history. If you're a huge Korean esports fan, you watch a lot of Pro League, you watch a lot of Star League, you probably already know who Rogue is. But Hart is a player that came up through the beginning of Starcraft 2, was one of the weaker players in the early days. But then eventually joined Axiom and was able to have funding to travel to MLGs, travel overseas. And the guy clearly had a lot of talent. And he was on the team TSL briefly. It's one of those TSL survivors. And TSL, a team I like to mention a lot because almost every player that was on TSL that was good still exists in some form today. Yeah. Not all of them are still as good as they were before, but they're still around. But Hart was famous for cheesing. He was he often proxied. He often did all-ins. He often did like the build that was called the 1-1-1 versus Protoss back in the day. That was his style, and he kind of started that way in competitive play. Then, of course, transitioned into playing a bit more standard, a bit more macro. But that's who he is, and to see an Axiom player in Star League does surprise a lot of people because the training not as strict as the Kespa houses. He travels a lot. He goes to a lot of foreign events, so he's not always as well rested. Doesn't have that rigorous Pro League schedule to adhere to that Rogue does, for example. So a lot of people are surprised to see him in Challenger. But, there's not a lot of games for Rogue to study on this guy, so who knows what's going to happen.
It's very true, and even going into what Rogue is doing in this game, plays a very greedy build. It's a gigantic map. I don't blame him for it, but maybe if he did have that information on Hart and what kind of player he was, maybe he would have taken a bit more safer. Rogue likes to do his own thing anyway, so you can't really fault him for it, but you really got a feel for these players like Hart, like Sora yesterday, who make it through the incredibly tough qualifiers. They finally made it through. They're here in Challenger, and then they hit Maru, and then they hit Rogue. Like some of the guys that are the best at their races in the game right now, currently the way it is. And I think it's going to be hard for Hart to win this one, but we'll see what he has lined up for this series. I'm really curious to see how he plays.
Yeah, just so far a little bit of Reaper has, but I mean, going back to what you're saying, it's going to be tougher to win the series. Joey's up against such a good player, and also the map pool, the draw is so against him, I feel. Not getting those 2-player maps early on. The Reaper is going to get a kill, possibly get a second one, almost forced a Spore cancel, or forced an Extractor cancel, so either way, doing some harassment damage. Yeah. And is able to identify 2 things. First of all, his opponent's spawning location, which is nearby, and also the fact that he went for a pool first to be safe.
I'm loving, by the way, we're getting this actually in Season 3, finally, of Star League. We're getting these more intimate camera shots, you know, when there's not so much going on in the game. We had a lot of these yesterday, and me and Mingley definitely love these. So. Yeah,
me too. I watched a lot of you guys cast yesterday, and you know, it's really cool. We got to see Myungshik's gum close up, for example. And
that was the highlight of that series, man.
a lot of effort is being put into improving the Star League, and you know, you and I and Moonglade as well have you know, we don't have like the creative license to actually change anything, but we talk to the people who do make this show, and you know, we love to hear you guys' feedback as well. But we think it's getting a lot better, and it's obviously a growing process. Star League very new here in Korea for StarCraft 2.
This is the 3rd season of this Star League compared to other, you know, different Star Leagues. Think of the GSL that's been around for how many years now? 5?
Yeah, actually 5 years.
It's pretty insane when you think about that.
So far, I mean, everything looks pretty normal on Hart's side. He is getting a quick stim, obviously, with a 3rd CC lining up here, and getting some Hellions out to control the map to put a little bit of pressure on. And we do see that, you know, the Korean commenters are going a bit crazy about this, which it is quite unique. We don't normally see this, but Hart is using like a phone book, or perhaps even an English book, I'm not sure what it is, to prop his monitor up higher to make sure that he could see it properly, doesn't strain his neck.
You know, I don't think we ever get this really in Pro League or any Star League. Any of the like Korean players that play over here all the time, very uncommon thing that 2 scouting lings come over here because they're not really sure what's going on. They do scout 4 extra Hellions. There's already 2 over here at Rogue Zone base, so he knows there's a lot of Hellions already on the map. But seeing Hart's builds, he has already added that 3rd command center and just powering up the racks. He's already going sim. We're going to see bio out of him, and not going any kind of crazy 2-base all-in or anything like that. So Rogue doesn't really have to be that scared.
Yeah, looks like he just wants to play a little bit more of a conservative macro game on this map. He's very lucky with the spawning locations. He can be this aggressive this early on with his Hellions. Unfortunately, with the pool first, the queens are out so early, the creep spread is up so early, it's very difficult for him to actually get over there and do much damage to that hatchery. Oh wow, a Nidus now. We saw the Roach one. I thought it was for safety, but it looks like I was wrong. It's going to be a timing attack here.
He was making 5 roaches, and I'm like, wow, he's really overreacting to these Hellions. But he's stopped here at 42, 41 drones, and he's going all in, man. That 3rd base is not really going to be mining, and I don't know if Hart's going to be able to identify this. He hasn't even seen a single roach.
He has vision of almost the entirety of his main base, except that one location where the Nidus is likely to be planted. If the Nidus gets off in his main, he's going to have a big problem. Okay, he should be able to see this. Only if it's at the bottom right there. That's the only place it could actually be planted, and he won't know. And he's not going to know. He has no vision of this. The SCV gets pretty close, but not close enough. Oh man, he's actually going to be so focused on the front of the bases now, as well as those lings run in. Here we go.
Oh, he's actually moving his Hellions away from his base right now. They're in the middle of the map, and here we go. The Nidus is out on the map here in the main base of Hart, and that is 14 roaches and a bunch of queens straight into your main.
He has so many early queens because of that pool first. A lot of them have built up so much energy to transfuse. And, I mean, they do a lot of extra range DPS from behind and keep that Nidus alive. They're just going to transfuse each other here, and more roaches are on the way. Hart tries to hold this without a bunker. He does have Stim and a lot of Marines, but it's just not enough. They don't have 1-1.
There's just too much stuff here. All these Marines, you know, they got Stim, but no combat shields. This hit at a very nice timing, and already this is doing critical damage. 22 SCVs have already gone down.
He needs to make sure he can eliminate that bio army, though, because if it does get strong enough to push this back with triple CCs, with triple mules, he can recover. I just don't see him surviving here, though. I mean, he can't even protect his production facilities right now. They're being killed one by one. And that army is just so flimsy. You can't see it on screen, but the hit points of several of those units are very low. And the SCVs are not going to be fighting units in this case either.
Yeah, and look at this. He's sitting on 41 drones, just pumping out as much as he can on 3 base, and that's going to be it. GG. Rogue takes game number 1.
Bit of a disrespect, perhaps. The Rogue just saying, you know what, I want to get into Challenger as quickly as possible, and I don't want to show, or rather into Star League as quickly as possible, and I don't want to show any builds, because I'm probably playing tomorrow in the Pro League Finals.
It's a really good point, Wolf. In fact, we've seen this actually yesterday even. Youngstick came out really firing, just going super aggressive.